No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
It was 7 years ago, plus a few extra days, that Joe Morrow scored late in the third period for the Winnipeg Jets, propelling them to a Game 1 victory over the Minnesota Wild. And tonight in downtown Winnipeg, it wasn't an unexpected goal scorer like Joe Morrow. It was Kyle Connor with 1 minute and 36 seconds to play in the third period, giving the Jets the lead and allowing the Jets to finish Game 1 with a 5-3 victory over the St. Louis Blues. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to show 3 of 3 on this Saturday. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Along with Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. We're hopeful that Ezzy will be able to join us at some point as well during the post-game show. But an absolute hell of a hockey game in downtown Winnipeg. A game, Dave, that I can't help but think about the maturity that was on display by the Winnipeg Jets, particularly in the final 40 minutes of tonight's contest, the final 35 minutes of tonight's contest, where we talked about it all day. How were the Jets going to respond when they get punched in the jaw? The Blues punched them a few different times early in this game, and then the Jets took over, surrendering a grand total of 2 shots on goal in the final 25 minutes of tonight's contest. What a game in downtown Winnipeg.
Well, I'm going to answer the question from Coffee and TV. Well, very, very loud. It was extremely loud here at Canada Life. It was, I'm not going to say it was the loudest I've ever heard it, because I don't think that's the case. I think that fans were, excited, and the whiteout always gets people pumped up, and it was a great atmosphere. And so, but you could sense it, Drew. You could sense, I think I like the word choices you used, maturity. And that's what we saw. And we said, stick to your structure, not take penalties, because again, the Jets PK hasn't been phenomenal this year. And so, and I will say, and I mean this so I don't want people to accuse me of being a homer, because I felt this for both teams. I didn't like the penalties called against St. Louis. I didn't like the penalties called against Winnipeg.
The ones early in the game. Few penalties of the game.
Luke Shen was just the most marginal penalty I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, honestly, he literally gently moved him. I don't mean literally gently, but he moved him very, very, softly away from the front of the net. And, except the trips were awful. It was a terrible showing from the Zebras for the first 20 minutes, maybe first 40 minutes of that game. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was just an interesting, I think it was an important game for Winnipeg in that sense, to deal with, not having success right away, for them to be down and out and getting, to your point, Drew, punched in the face and not having it come easy. And what did we call it? I think, I don't remember exactly who I said it to, whether it was to you or to Ez. It might have been frozen at the time, but I think one of the things I said was, for me, my X factor was Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. Or I think I said Scheifele, but then I said I included Kyle Connor. And Kyle Connor, he had an interesting column with, or Paul Friesen had an interesting column about Kyle Connor, saying this year is different. Boy, did he make it look like it was different. They were going from the outset of the game and real good on obviously on role players. And I thought the Jets were playing a good game, even when they were down. If you looked at the stats, I think, I don't remember what the advanced stats were after one, but the Jets had the expected goals. They'd given up the 2 power play goals.
Relatively even after one. The Jets had a slight edge in the expected goals, and a slight edge in the possession numbers. I thought the Jets were a little nervous to start the game.
Yes.
St. Louis
Tentative.
came out and they controlled the first few minutes. They had a couple of good shifts to start the game where the Jets were a little bit hemmed into their own zone. I don't know if you could see it there at Canada Life Center, but on the broadcast they showed sort of a Scott Arniel after the first couple shifts, give a little bit of a tongue lashing.
Yeah, I saw it on the TV afterwards.
You looked above. Yeah, exactly. So, the Jets, they were a little hesitant, I would say, to start the game. A little bit, maybe nerves, but saw those nerves dissipate throughout the course of the game. And as the game got tighter, the Jets' performance got better.
Yeah.
You look at this game. I mean, you look at the back half of this game, and if you're the St. Louis Blues, you're saying, "Whew, that's tough." That's tough to go up against them. They had the lead. St. Louis has got to be feeling good about themselves. They get the lead based on a lot of special teams performance and special teams execution. Not so much 5-on-5, but the Jets just stayed with it. You saw no panic and you saw nobody trying to play hero ball, if you want to use a basketball reference, where player X, have to do it all on my own. You didn't see that from the Winnipeg Jets, which to me, as I was saying, is again a sign of their maturity as this playoff series gets underway. I see you're coughing there for a second. I'll tell everybody on the post-game show tonight, the Illegal Curve post-game show presented by our friends at Play Now, you're going to hear from St. Louis Blues head coach Jim Montgomery. You're going to hear from the Winnipeg Jets players. Again, it's different come playoff time. The media and the players are all speaking in front of the Stanley Cup backdrop, so it's not within the dressing room like it often is. They bring out certain players.
I think what happens. So I mean, it'll be less relevant for the Jets fans because the Jets won.
Right.
But the winning team players come out, which is good because we'll want to hear from them anyways. So we can hear from the players, we can hear from Jim Montgomery, and we'll of course hear from Scott Arniel. And by the way, one thing I don't know if they cut away from the broadcast, but worth noting, I was that Brandon Tanev grabbed the puck, the game-winning puck, and I don't know if the team is doing that because teams often collect on their path to 16.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he did it for that reason or if he was doing it to give it to Scott Arniel. But I did take note that Brandon Tanev grabbed the puck that when the game ended.
There you go. So that is what's in store. We're going to be with you for a while here tonight. I mean, look, we've already done, 3.5 hours of broadcasts already today. That's nothing. Might as well go for a little while longer. This evening here on the Illegal Curve post-game show, we remind everybody, if you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and also tell your friends and tell your family right now that the best place to be tonight is here on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. We're with you. We got comprehensive post-game coverage coming your way after the Jets defeat the St. Louis Blues 5-3 tonight. A come-from-behind victory for the Winnipeg Jets. After 40 minutes entering tonight's game, the Jets were 2-16-1 against their opponents. We know how they've been very good at shutting down their opponent when they have the lead, how they've been practically unbeatable when they have a lead in the third period. But to come into this third period trailing by that goal, Dave, and being able to just stick with it, just patiently break down the St. Louis Blues. That's what they did. That's how they won this game. They've won games with a flashier style before, but just their ability to continually chip away. It was a drop of water against cement. Eventually, that cement will crumble, and that cement tonight was the St. Louis Blues in the steady drip of the Winnipeg Jets and their pressure and their style of play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we saw again. You don't want to read too much into one game. You don't want to make statements based on one 60-minute hockey game. But I will give them credit. I mean, like I said, this was a team that they got punched in the mouth. They got punched in the mouth a couple of times. They dealt with some adversity. Look, I mean, Connor Hellebuck doesn't make that save with the 3-2 game when Dylan Sandberg loses the puck in the air.
Yes.
And he doesn't make that save on the breakaway. And suddenly that's a 4-2 hockey game. And maybe
on Jimmy Snuggerud is who came in on there on that opportunity.
That's right. So the point is that if he doesn't make that save, you know, I'm not suggesting the Jets couldn't have come back. I'm not saying that they couldn't have done something there, but at the same time, you don't have to speculate because he made a phenomenal save. Sure. And as a result, he kept his team within that margin of what they're more than capable of getting back in a hockey game. So it was a really fun atmosphere, I will say. Like the fans were really into it. Like they were singing, and of course when they got the lead, but even before that, I mean, there were some good chants. I don't know if you could hear it on the broadcast. There was a Luke is better, versus.
Look, I mean, I love the energy. Don't poke the bear. Braden Shen is better than Luke Shen. I think Luke Shen himself would admit that as well.
I'm not saying otherwise, of course, but I think it was more just a humorous sort of, I think I joked on Twitter saying that, like, I'm sure his parents may not be saying that down in Saskatoon, but the fans in Winnipeg sure were embracing it. And look, they, right from the get-go, like the Adam Lowry laying out the body and getting physical. And although I will say the one area where the Jets got dominated was in the hit department, St. Louis, which is kind of crazy.
53-33 were the final hits.
Yeah, but in the first period, it was 30-14. So I mean, St. Louis was laying the body very aggressively. It looks like we've got some journalists.
There's people milling about in the Matt Frost Media Center, so I think Jim Montgomery is likely up momentarily. But keep going. We'll bring him in just as soon as we have him.
Again, like I said, I look at it and I think to myself, like, okay, is this the way it's going to be? And it seemed a bit chess matchy at certain points. You thought, okay, are they going to they're feeling each other out, even though there's some goal scoring, how is that going to end up going? But to the credit of the Jets, they settled down. I agree with you. They looked a little tentative, a little nervous. And, look, I mean, sometimes it's hard to harness this energy, right? I mean, there is a lot of emotion in the crowd. They're amped up. You're amped up. But at the same time, you got to, what did they say in Billy Madison? No, is it Billy Madison? No, it's Happy Gilmore. With Kevin Nealon, with the Harvest, bring in the energy, the good, block the bad. Bring in the energy, block the bad. So, it's a function of, you have to be able to rein that in a little bit because there is that excitement.
Well, and you talk about that save that Connor Hellebuck made on Jimmy Snuggerud. I mean, that to me is the absolute TSN turning point in tonight's contest. So,
For sure.
That is absolutely where you saw Hellebuck, the first three goals. Not that they're his fault, but he didn't look like Connor Hellebuck on them. Maybe a little deep in his net, maybe just not.
They're also pretty good chances.
Yeah, they were good shots. No question about it. They were from point blank range. But you want to see Connor Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck makes that key save when his team needs it the most. That's always how he's been. Yeah. Sometimes that save comes when the Jets are down 1 goal or when it's 2-1. Today, it happened when it was a 3-2 game. But from that point on, that was almost like the Blues realized that was their opportunity to sort of seal this game away. After that save, Connor Hellebuck didn't have to really make very many saves for the remainder of the game, being perfectly honest. And it was just that important for the Jets to get.
By the way, Drew, just quickly before we go to, it was Kyrou who had the breakaway, not Snuggerud. It was Kyrou.
Sorry, I read my notes wrong here.
No, that's all good.
Yes. Jim Montgomery, St. Louis Blues head coach.
What did you see?
I didn't think we managed the game very well in the third period.
How so?
Penalties, puck management, a little bit of our emotions.
This may be building on that, but at some point, this may be building on that. At some point, shots seem to become very hard to come by for your team. Is that something you stopped doing or something they started doing?
Probably a combination of both. I think we didn't hit the net on some of our opportunities.
Jim, obviously they put a lot of pressure on your breakouts, but what did you do wrong? What can you do better getting the puck out?
I got to look the film over. Right now, I wouldn't have a real educated answer for you. I mean, both teams are forechecking. It's the playoffs. You're going to forecheck hard. I didn't think our puck management and decision making was quick enough.
That said, when you were in your defensive zone as the game went on, they seemed to be able to have a lot more puck control and extended control. Is there something that you could do better clearly, but is something, what could you do to kind of interrupt the momentum they were able to build in your zone as the game went on?
Our habits weren't very good tonight. Defensively, we weren't very good tonight. We'll grow. We'll get better.
Just your take on that
breakaway save on Kyrou kind of late in the second, which obviously could have made it a 2-goal game. Do you feel like if someone could get up to that might have changed the look of that game?
It's a hard one to answer. You know, with the way we played in the third, I don't know if 2 would have been enough.
Jim, what makes Shifley and Connor such a kind of dynamic duo as they've been for a number of years?
Skill and talent. They make plays, poised plays. I mean, that game-winning goal is a high-end play.
I don't know what you thought of the run of penalties early on in the game for both teams, but the one that sort of caught my eye was maybe the Zach Bolduc cross-check there in the third. I wonder if that felt like it changed momentum a little bit for you.
You know, I don't know. We can't take that penalty in the playoffs. I do know that. I don't. I thought we killed the penalty pretty good. You know, I can't say it built momentum for them, but I know it. It took us from a situation where I thought we were a little bit in control, and then we weren't.
Was the PK one of the bright spots for this game?
We gave up one, so you know we got to be a little bit better on the PK. All in all, I thought it was a really good hockey game, you know, but we are going to grow and we're going to get better from this. That's what we have to do. You know, if we want to make it a series, we're going to have to get better. We're going to have to control our emotions better. We're going to have to manage the puck better. We're going to have to win more battles.
Jim, 8 hits for Braden in the first period, and do you feel like he really helped set the tone for your group?
Braden Shen's an incredible competitor, and he's our leader. He sets the tone really well for us every night.
Jim, you haven't had a lot of games where you had bad puck management the past couple of months. You know, Braden said maybe some adjustments to make you think it's maybe more execution. It sounds like what you're saying.
It's a little bit of execution, and it's a little bit of getting used to Stanley Cup playoffs. We got a fairly young team out there. A lot of guys playing in their first game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's why I know we will get better from it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jim. Thank
Yep.
you.
Myself. There he goes. I had to unmute myself. Jim Montgomery, St. Louis Blues head coach, breaking down the game with some short answers. I wouldn't expect him to be expansive. You're on mute too, Dave, so I'll let you unmute yourself and you can keep talking there.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I actually thought he was. He's still insightful. I actually still thought he was. He gives the honest answers. Yeah. I agree. He wasn't particularly verbose, but he was definitely. I thought he was insightful.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of the answers he delivered there. He had said, we have to be more disciplined. Absolutely, they have to be more disciplined. How many? I think the Blues, 2 of the Blues penalties. I mean, the Bolduc one is inexcusable, especially for that's just a young player getting the emotions getting the better of him. First playoff game for Zach Bolduc, who actually I thought had a good game for St. Louis, but you're on a power play and you take that kind of penalty. Nullifying that power play for the Blues. You can't have that happen. Earlier on, Jake Neighbors, he takes that slashing penalty that leads to the power play goal for the Winnipeg Jets. We have 2 Jets players. It looks like we have Kyle Connor at the dais right now.
Looks at Jordan Binnington. Obviously, you finally get one to go by at a great time there. But just maybe take us through the thought process when you're getting such great looks and goaltender seems to, at least early in the game, have your number.
Yeah, you just got to stick with it, stay positive, knowing that you're doing the right things, getting the chances. And, a lot of plays like those cross-ice plays or even the one Fats hit me on the power play. Usually I'm trying to get that off as quick as possible. A lot of holes in the goaltenders if you can. And, it was obviously a great play by Scheif and just try to get off quick.
Mark, that great play puts you alone on top of the franchise playoff all-time scoring list, passing your good friend Blake Wheeler. Just what does it mean to hold that record and to do it in such a dramatic way?
Yeah, it's obviously really cool. Obviously it's cool. To do it in front of the fans tonight was pretty special. That was a fun game to be a part of. Had a fun time.
Clearly, at some point, your team locked in your defensive game, but your line specifically seemed to lock in that offensive zone, long possession, churning, kind of grinding them down style of game. What did you guys think that you did to get to that?
I thought, the first period, it was, I don't know what it was, but kind of feeling out for both teams. And I really thought in the second period we got to our game, like you said. that's Winnipeg Jet hockey, where you're rolling around the O zone, getting possession, early changes, getting the next line out there and keep doing it, hemming teams in. And the rush really wasn't there. I thought they did a great job of their F3. Obviously we talked about that, and they didn't want to give anything up. So just getting through the neutral zone, being simple, the play's there. If not, make those deep turn and get it back on the forecheck.
Kyle, when you're waiting for the pass from Mark, do you, as he has the puck there, having played with him for so long, kind of have an idea of what he's thinking, where he's going to be looking to pass, just the chemistry between you two?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah.
And Mark, could you make that pass to Kyle with your eyes closed? It seems like you always know where he is.
He's absolutely fantastic. He's a real pleasure to play with. I've said it many times. I'm lucky to have spent as much time with him as I have, and tonight was another fun night playing with him.
Ken, then Murat.
Kyle, what's Al brought to that line?
Yeah, you guys seen it right from day one, and obviously last year too we played with him, and he can do it all. He's he's such a big asset for our team, and he comes into our line and doesn't change a thing. Plays the same exact way. Wins a ton of battles. I think he's one of the best defenders on our team. He back checks really hard. Great stick. Seems like he's knocking the puck down every chance he can get, and he's got a knack around the net, and you see that with the past 20 games or however long he's been with us, and it translates to playoff hockey.
Very quickly, how would you describe the save Connor makes on Kyrou at the point of the game and what it meant in the overall end result?
Yeah, big save in a big time. That's Helly for us. He's the backbone of this team, and that was a tremendous save, and obviously had a big point in the game, so kept us in it, and played awesome tonight.
Kyle, this almost reminded me of that April Blues game here in the regular season where you guys just stuck with it, and you eventually found a way. What does it say, I guess, about your group and the confidence that you have that when you do that and you never cheat the game and you always do it, there's going to be a moment for you?
Yeah, we talked about it between periods. That's got to be our game, no matter what. It may not bounce our way that night, but over a 7-game series, we like our odds, and we've kind of shown it throughout the regular season. When we're playing that way, it's tough to play against, and we're able to generate offense as well and score.
And Mark, you've said this already, and in a lot of different ways over your career, but when you're making a pass to Kyle and you know that you don't need to get him too many before he's going to score, can you put into words the confidence it gives you as a playmaker just knowing that he's on the other end of it?
Oh, it's amazing. It's all I want to do is put the puck in his hands, and he does some fantastic things. Like I said before, I'm lucky to play with him. He's absolutely fantastic. He shoots the puck fantastic. He does so many little things fantastic, and like I said a million times, he's amazing to play with.
Thank you.
There you go. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele leading the Winnipeg Jets, each of whom had 3 points in tonight's Jets come from behind victory over the St. Louis Blues. Still to come here on the Illegal Curve post-game show presented by Play Now. Jets head coach Scott Arniel is going to join us from the Matt Frost Media Center. We remind everybody that on Monday, yes, to smash the like button, as Dave is indicating, but also on Monday, the Illegal Curve pregame show will be at 4:30 p.m. live from City Place, the food court in downtown Winnipeg. And then, of course, the Illegal Curve postgame show will follow after Monday's game between the Jets and the St. Louis Blues as well. Kyle Connor was a guy who seemed dangerous throughout the course of tonight's game. Dave, you're still on mute. I'll let you know as I begin this thought. He seemed dangerous. There were times though where it looked like he might have been even overhandling the puck a little bit, trying to dance around and find his space on the ice. That's the power play opportunity. With the great pass from Cole Perfetti is one that he usually scores on. Here's Scott Arniel.
Scott, it was a game that you guys really had to stay tenacious in, going down in the third period, down by a goal, don't score on the immediate power play that you get, and yet you found a way, which sounds like something we've asked you about during the regular season too. How important was it to start game one that way?
Yeah, thought the first period we looked real nervous, just kind of trying to find our way, kept going, built it up in the second, but then, stuck with it and really played well in the third. But, we had talked about as a group that, you don't know how long these games are going to last. They could, go be 3 periods, or they could go into overtime. You have to stay in the moment. And I thought we did a really good job of, that first period. It was a little bit wacky. And we were a little bit sloppy, and then all of a sudden, the second period, we started to do some things that we had talked about, got some zone time, started to create chances, and then it kind of built towards that third, and it was a real good third period.
Did you sort of get the sense on the bench that, Kyle Connor was finding his space and that this was going to happen in time, or did that third period by them kind of come out of just their star power, I guess?
Well, I mean, it's one thing about, the best players or the top players, especially offensive guys, they have a knack for finding holes, for finding ice. I thought KC had a lot of puck possession in the second period. He didn't get that shot off a few times, and just felt in the third he really got in his head that he was going to fire pucks. Bennington made a heck of a stop on the one, but that's one thing about KC. He'll continue to shoot pucks and continue to grind to find those holes.
Scott, how do you describe the way that line embraced the matchup with Thomas as well?
Yeah, they've had it a couple times this year already, so it wasn't like they hadn't had it before. But again, that's a real good line in the St. Louis side as well, and real dangerous. But that's part of kind of what we have talked about all year long about no matter who you are, there's a way to play without the puck, and the buy-in that we've gotten from our top guys has obviously helped us have success defensively. And that was a good match. They had some looks. That line had some looks, obviously, and but that's what it's going to be. They're going to have to do it. Could be possibly 7 more or 6 more times. So, when you go head-to-head against top players, you have to be at your best.
And then too, playoffs can also be about unsung heroes. How would you describe the way your fourth line was able to contribute for you today?
Yeah, that was a big goal. Obviously, kind of really got the crowd into it. Not that they need to get any louder, but it's going to be like it has been all year long. That it's all 4 lines, it's all of our D contributing. That we roll well when everybody is a part of it, and that's kind of what we got tonight.
That goal from Kyle and Mark, the fourth goal, it happened after prolonged cycle and throughout a game that was very tight checking, but Scheifele finds the seam. Was that another instance of 2 of your best players finding a way to adapt and evolving through the course of a game?
Yeah, we caught him on an icing, so that helped. And then obviously the big face-off win. It wasn't a clean win, but I think it was Al came off or KC come off the wall to help get a piece of that. So he starts there, and then obviously had a face-off play on, and they're not always they don't always get away with them, and there was a really good just the whole sequence of it was executed perfect.
His final numbers maybe aren't what we usually see from Connor Hellebuck, but that save off Kyrou kind of late in the second and keeps it a 1-goal game. In hindsight, I guess, how big was that in your eyes?
Yeah, well, it obviously, like you mentioned, they kept it at 1 goal. It was a big moment, just like Bennington's save. That was big. We felt that was maybe the one that got us back into it. But that's what good goaltenders do. Great goaltenders do. They have one, we have one, and I think at the end of the day, just ask our guy to make one more big save than their guy, and hopefully we come out in the right end of it.
In that first period, you mentioned maybe you guys were nervous. Obviously, a lot of momentum swings and lots of penalties. They came out very physical. Was there anything about that first period that surprised you?
I'm just only speaking about our team. I just thought we were a little bit sloppy. We were a little bit hesitant at times. We didn't execute very well, and I think that was the first game. There's a lot of pressure, and but then we got up and we calmed down and got back to doing what we do.
Talking about the pressure and the nerves, Adam said that he felt that out there. The Whiteout traditionally the last number of years has not been an easy place to get results, and I'm wondering if what you see tonight, the way your team reacts to that nervousness, is if you're seeing growth in this group, that is something they can lock in and take forward.
Well, we'll talk about it before game 2, that we need to come out and get going right off the bat. But sometimes that crowd, it's so loud, and they also, you can feel it. You can hear the oohs and ahs when we miss, or if there's a bad call, or if there's a missed call. It's amazing how that is so loud and it flows. And then if they got up on the lead and our whole crowd, everybody got a little bit quiet, but then they got themselves going again. So it is. There's an ebb and flow coming from from the fans, and but we've been through it, and we've obviously had lots of sellouts here for especially the last part of the year, and hopefully that next game, period number 1, we're up and running right away. Thank you. Thanks.
Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel tonight from downtown Winnipeg, the Matt Frost Media Center, breaking down the Jets' victory over the St. Louis Blues based on his perspective. And I would agree, Jets were slow to start, and that's going to be an area of focus, no doubt, as the Jets look to succeed and get back, really from puck drop, moving that way going forward. I mean, it's not how you start, it's of course how you finish. And from the way the Jets finished tonight's game, Dave, there's a lot to like about that Winnipeg Jets performance over the final 30 or so minutes of the game. Connor Hellebuck, little bit of nerves, little bit of maybe not peak Connor Hellebuck to start, but he got into the flow of the game. I know that I misspoke and I said the save on Snuggerud. It was the save on Snuggerud. It was a glove save. And yes, as Joe from Winnipeg pointed out in the chat, that shot was going wide. But I thought that Hellebuck just made it so clean that even though it wasn't going to be a goal, it was a clean save. And I thought from that point in time, he settled in. I mean, the save he made on Jordan Kyrou, the breakaway, Dave, Jordan Kyrou is no slouch. This isn't a guy who doesn't know how to score at the NHL level. This is a guy who's a very good hockey player. And Hellebuck was at his best to make that save. Again, I saw a Winnipeg Jets team that grew over the course of the 60 minutes, which is what you want to see from your team. And I didn't think that St. Louis was able to counter the Winnipeg Jets' growth as the game went on tonight. The Jets ultimately winning by that 5-3 margin.
Yeah, I mean, I think growth is a good word, Drew. I think this is another example of a team that is showing that they know how to win. I mean, they won 56 games, 57 games this year, not by accident, because they had a game plan. And, credit coach Scott Arniel. I mean, it's his first playoff game. It's his first playoff win as a head coach. Mm-hmm. And, they have a game plan. They didn't deviate from it. We didn't see any roving. I agree that it was tentative, but I didn't see a team that played without their structure that we've seen all season long. And so you're watching this game and you're like, okay, the Jets are losing. Okay. But, that's also not something we're used to seeing, but fine, they're losing. But at the same time, you're like, but they're staying within that same structure we've talked about and we've watched throughout the course of the season. So this is not insurmountable. And Connor Hellebuck does what he does, which is makes saves like he did against Jordan Kyrou, who, as you correctly say, Drew, is a pretty good hockey player. So, it was a really good, well-played hockey game. Really, again, like I said, it's funny because I was having some conversations here in the press box. Originally, I was like, it's not the best game because it's like a little bit slower. It was funny because it started off a little bit fast, then it went a little bit slower, and then all of a sudden it picked up the pace again. So, and again, like I said, both teams, even though they've got some experience playing each other this season, you did feel like there was a little bit of a feeling out process again, even though, again, they just played each other 12 days ago or something like that. So, a very enjoyable one. And like I said, like this crowd is awesome. Like I just, we, as you said, we experienced it from the, from when we were at City Place. And then of course, walking over here, and I'm sure as you walk back to your car, you saw the people in outfits, and Colby sent me. I mean, I unfortunately I've been so busy. I'd like trying to get everything done.
You'll get it done in time. In due time, everybody needs to get, as Dave is loading everything up and getting everything ready, our social media platforms need to be a destination for you to see the images that Colby shot. Our Colby Spence, our photographer and our videographer, of course, had complete coverage of the atmosphere inside and outside. So these are all going to be up on our Instagram page at Illegal Curve, so you can be sure to check that out as well. After the post-game show ends here on this Saturday night, Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, it's the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's presented by Play Now. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. We're going to do this again with the Illegal Curve pre-game show on Sunday, and then, on Monday. And
I'm like Sunday. We're doing one on Sunday?
Monday.
Yeah, I have
and then the post-game show following Game 2 on Monday. For now, though, let's get into the game recap. 8 goals to talk about. It's presented by our friends at Play Now.
the Play Now game recap.
Don't bet on illegal sites. Bet with Play Now instead. Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Big thanks to our friends at Play Now for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show and all of the Illegal Curve broadcasts. As we mentioned to start this game, a little bit of some tentativeness on both teams, I would say. A little bit of, the Blues jumping out, getting some good zone time, which I think was important for them, as the Jets, I think, maybe struggled to master their emotions and harness the energy of the crowd to begin tonight's contest. That sort of, I thought, turned at the 5.5-minute mark of the first period. Adam Lowry had that real big body check on Ryan Suter. That was, I thought, a sign that the Jets were maybe shaking off of their early minutes malaise, early minutes jitters. Then Cole Perfetti had a good chance from the mid slot. It ultimately didn't lead to anything, but you saw the Jets maybe beginning to sort of find their game a little bit at that point in time. The St. Louis Blues, however, are the team that opens the scoring at the 9.5-minute mark of the first period. This is with Luke Shen in the penalty box for interference on Matthew Joseph, what I would describe, and I think most people would say, was a bit of a soft call. Dave shaking his head. He's
Definitely
saying
not
that, it was not what you would describe. John Garrett on the broadcast said that this was more of what I would describe as a routine net front battle that the officials determined was a penalty. Nonetheless, the Jets got maybe a little over eager on their penalty kill, as both Lowry and Iafallo go to try and get a loose puck. Cam Fowler is able to chip it over to Robert Thomas, who's standing at the faceoff dot to the right of Connor Hellebuck. And Robert Thomas, as we've talked about, he's more known for his playmaking skills, but he can also shoot the puck pretty well. You saw it here as he rifles it past Connor Hellebuck. A successful broken play for the St. Louis Blues, leading to the 1-0 goal. Thomas, his first of the playoffs, assist to Cam Fowler and Pavel Buchnevich, Dave.
Well, and it's funny, Drew, because one of the things we talked about was whether special teams were going to be a factor, and also I think you as well thought it was going to be a low-scoring game. Did not expect. That's why when you said there's 8 goals to go over, I thought, 8 goals. Did we call it? It was going to think it was going to be like a 3-1 game.
The Blues barely had 8 shots in the game. Never mind 8 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't have 8 shots. I don't think they had 8 shots after the first period. I'll have to go back and double check on that one. They had exactly 8 shots in the final 40 minutes of the game. But we'll talk about that as we keep going.
But that was 6 in the middle and 2 in the final. So
right.
It is just there's definitely still some people partying here.
That's okay. Keep going. Keep talking. You don't have to worry about the people.
I'm distracted. I'm trying to watch everybody who's partying. I got
distracted. Focus on the hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people who are joining us here on the post game show. That's where your focus needs to be.
Oh yeah, good point. I'm being a little bit Ezzy-ish right now, but no, I mean it was one of the things that you have seen with this PK was, I guess, a little bit in trying to be a little bit more aggressive. And that to me was the mistake at the blue line, because both guys, like you said, made a play for the puck, didn't get it. And as a result, now they're deep and you've got the numbers to the Blues advantage. So really Connor Hellebuck, I'm not going to blame him on this one. I know some folks weren't happy with it going in, but if you watch it, I mean, he's got 3 guys sitting in front of basically 3 guys in front of him with 1 defenseman back. So it's really not, he's got to look for the shot. He's got to look for the pass across, got to look for the other pass. So that's kind of the problem, that, Iafallo and Lowry are both leaving the zone, and it leaves the Blues kind of wide open to really have the men advantage at that point, and they take the 1-0 lead.
Exactly right. So a broken play works to the St. Louis Blues advantage, and they lead 1-0. It doesn't take long for the Jets to tie it up. 4 minutes and 7 seconds to be exact. They get their own power play opportunity. A very undisciplined, borderline selfish penalty from Jake Neighbors of the St. Louis Blues. He just takes a slashing penalty just for no reason. He slashes Alex Iafallo. in the neutral zone. 2 penalties tonight, by the way, committed against Alex Iafallo that were undisciplined in the neutral zone. As a result, the Blues go to the penalty kill. The Jets go to the power play. And being perfectly honest, the Jets get a fortuitous bounce on their power play opportunity. Mark Scheifele is down at the Gabe Velarde spot, if you will, next to the side of Jordan Binnington. Kyle Connor sends it down low. Scheifele's looking to send it either across to Perfetti or to send it into the slot to Al Iafallo. Instead, it deflects off of Ryan Suter's stick and sort of up and flutters over Jordan Binnington. Not the prettiest goal by any stretch of the imagination, but for a Jets team that was down 1-0 and a Jets power play that hasn't been clicking on all cylinders, it's certainly an important goal for the Winnipeg Jets to tie it up with about 6 minutes and change to go in the first period.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we talked about was how the power play has not been successful, and it's been a detriment. And I actually thought they had some really good movement today. And again, like I said, they weren't successful on all of their power play opportunities. They only were successful on the first one, but I thought they got momentum from it, and it wasn't that negative suck it's been for the last little bit.
Right.
So
it got zone time. It got possession time. I mean, Kyle Connor didn't score on that golden opportunity, but if those opportunities are going to be there, I'm talking about the one late, later in the game off the Perfetti pass. But if those opportunities are going to be there during this series, well, the Jets are going to score power play goals.
That's right. And, one of the things we talked about was the Blues PK, and obviously we know where it ranks. And it's good movement. They're moving their feet. They're getting it off quickly. And although Kyle Connor must have done about 10,000 pirouettes in tonight's hockey game. But yeah, I mean,
he's
at the end of the day,
in his spare time,
it's a fortuitous bounce, right? I mean, it just pops in and it beats Jordan Binnington. And now the Jets have a 1-1 game. And most importantly, the building is into it. And you can just feel, I mean, look, the fans celebrated an Adam Lowry hit. I don't remember who it was. I think it was either Mason Appleton or Nino Niederreiter had laid a hit just before that. I think it was Appleton. And then maybe 2 seconds later, that's when Lowry dropped that big hit. So they were celebrating the hits, and then they celebrated the goal. So it was what fans in this building were looking for.
And then the celebrations got a little bit louder about 90 seconds later. 15:02 into the first period, the Jets take their first lead of the game. Of course, a lead that they would relinquish in that first period, but they get depth scoring. And we've talked about how the depth of the Winnipeg Jets is such an important factor in the course of this playoff series. Luke Schenn takes a shot. It goes, ricochets wide. It goes back to Logan Stanley. He takes a shot and it ricochets wide as well. But what happens is the Jets go and gather a loose puck. And this is with the Jets' fourth line on the ice. Morgan Barron picks it up on the half wall. He sends it in deep to David Gustafsson. Gustafsson back to Luke Schenn at the point, and there's a double deflection. It goes off the stick of Barron. He was initially awarded the goal, but it turns out that both Barron tipped it, and then Jared Anderson Dolan tips it in as well. So he gets credit for his first goal of the playoffs. I'd have to look to see if that's his first career.
It is.
Okay, there you go. He gets his first career playoff goal.
He only had 4 games with the Kings, I think 3 years ago.
That's right. And I guess did he end up scoring in regulation for the Jets or in the regular season?
No, he had seven games. He had 1 assist. He had that beautiful assist on the Connor goal.
On the Connor goal against Dallas, but it's his first career goal as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. And it gives the Jets the 2-1 lead. Again, you love the puck retrieval. You love the shoot first mentality. Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn are 2 guys that certainly have the spotlight on them. I thought they were perfectly serviceable tonight from the Jets' perspective. I don't think that they were fantastic, but they were serviceable in the minutes that they played for the Winnipeg Jets, particularly so at 5-on-5. Let me just double check their time on ice. Luke Schenn at 5-on-5 or at even strength, 14 minutes and 50 seconds. Logan Stanley, 12 and a half minutes. So if the Jets are going to get that kind of time on ice from their third pair when they don't look out of sorts, and then on top of it, they chip in a little bit offensively or at least with some zone time, that's certainly a good sign for the Winnipeg Jets. And it's sort of what we talked about today on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show and then again on the Illegal Curve pregame show. The Blues aren't the team aren't a foot speed team that can necessarily expose Stanley and Schenn as badly as some other teams with that top end, high end, superlative skating ability could in a matchup against the Jets' third pair.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it, and it's what we've been talking about. Just get pucks on. Like, this is with the Barron, Jared Anderson, Dolan sort of duo. What do you want those guys to do? You want them to play an honest game. You just want them to direct pucks on net, or the defense, I should say, direct pucks on net, and they're just going to go to the front. And I saw that someone said Jared Anderson, Dolan had like that dog in him. But I mean, again, like I said, he is a gamer, and he's a very honest sort of north-south player, and you know what you're going to get with him, but he fills a role, and he's got the ability to kind of, I didn't think, actually, I thought in the first period, I thought he looked real good and calm. And so, and the other thing also, even though he doesn't, unfortunately for him, get an assist because of that double deflection, Drew,
right.
I thought it was an excellent pass by David Gustafsson to the point, to Luke Schenn on the point. So, because he had to get it through, I think at least one stick, maybe two on the Blues end of things. So he gets it back to Luke Schenn. Schenn fires it on net. And yeah, double deflection, not an easy one for Binnington. The way Jared Anderson Dolan celebrated, I assumed he had the goal, but then Barron also celebrated. So obviously they both tipped it. And then upon further reflection, they realized that again, in the building, they gave it to Barron. And then they subsequently changed it to Jared Anderson Dolan.
So 2-1 at that point in time for the Winnipeg Jets. So they've come back well on this one, but it doesn't take the Blues long. Again, the Blues, you'll give them credit, they're not going to go away meekly. They may not be able to, at least throughout the later stages of this game, they weren't able to match what the Winnipeg Jets did, but they're not going to go away meekly and just roll over in the course of this series. They tie it up with 1:50 to go in the first period. Oskar Sundqvist gets his first of the playoffs, assist to Zach Bolduc and Justin Falk, and the Jets get caught in their own zone. They get hemmed in their own zone. It's a long shift for the Jets players. It's a long shift in particular for Josh Morrissey. And this one, again, it's a bit of a bad bounce in that it's on Luke Schenn. He tries to sort of kick it to his stick, but he kicks a little too far as it redirects off him and redirects right onto the stick of Oskar Sundqvist, who's in a really good shooting position. Again, these are not the goals on Connor Hellebuyck were not from the outside. These are goals from the red paint, the red spot of the ice, where the Jets had been so stingy all season long. The puck ricochets off of Schenn, like I said, onto the stick of Sundqvist. He gets just enough space between him and Morrissey, and he wires it over Connor Hellebuyck to tie the game up at 2 goals apiece. This is late in the first period, Dave.
Yeah, and I think, Drew, the point you're making is that it's a bit of an unfortunate bounce because, you look at the way Luke Schenn handles that puck and you're like, okay, well, he's got this and it's not going to be an issue. And then sure enough, he doesn't have it, and you can see it right away on his face. He knows that he's put Connor Hellebuyck into a bad spot. And yeah, I mean, it's a nice shot by Sundqvist, and it did suck the energy out of the building a little bit because folks were real excited, and yeah, it was just kind of an unexpected play because of the way it Morgan Barron doesn't get the puck out. I mean, it's funny because the fourth line, to their credit, it just played so well. Right. And then, there's a little bit, it's funny, if the refs are really calling penalties, there was a little bit of a cross check, but ultimately, I mean, you have a puck on your stick and you don't get it out of the zone, stays in the zone, and then you get burnt by it. Mm-hmm. And again, I will say that, Scott O'Neill didn't reduce their ice time. He kept these guys in the game, and he kept them as an effective line. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit of an unfortunate one because, like you said, Morrissey gets caught out late, and Luke Schenn just a bit of a bobble there with the kick, and it's in the back of the net. It's a tie game.
To your point, 7 minutes for the Jets' fourth line, 7:12 for Gustafsson, 7:07 for Anderson Dolan, and 7:38 for Morgan Barron in tonight's game. Really, the Jets were fortuitous. Again, the playoffs, we know that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. No Jets player played more than 20 minutes in tonight's game.
Which is not bad.
Which is terrific. It's unusual.
Yeah.
Come playoff time. Usually you expect you have to ride your horses and you have to ride them hard. Dylan Sandberg played the most minutes for the Winnipeg Jets at 19:26. Josh Morrissey just behind him at 19:11. So again, Jets were able to sort of have that balanced time on ice in tonight's game against the St. Louis Blues, where you're able to roll your lines and roll your deep pairings, which is something certainly that's important as the games add up and as the minutes get longer in the course of the playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets. 2-2 after 40 minutes. We were talking about it being a tight checking, low scoring game. Well, it certainly wasn't that after 20 minutes, given that there were 4 goals scored at that point. The Blues get the 5th goal of the game at the 1 minute and 13 second mark of the second period. So this is after Neil Pionk takes what I would describe as a questionable penalty with about 18 seconds to go in the first period. There's just what I would describe as, again, a relatively routine goal mouth scramble with some post-whistle shenanigans. Pionk goes up high. He does grab a little bit, in the face wash against Jake Neighbors area, and the ref decides he's going to take Pionk to the box, maybe in an effort to make sure those shenanigans don't continue over the final 40 minutes. Whatever, the ref makes the call. The Blues succeed on the power play. Jordan Kyrou, it's a power play goal, his first of the series. Justin Falk and Jake Neighbors get the assists on this one. 5-on-4 man advantage. The Blues do a good job moving the puck around. And then I thought that Josh Morrissey was a little bit in no man's land here in trying to come out on Jordan Kyrou. Brandon Tanev's a little late, a little slow in getting over in the box to try and prevent the shot from coming through. And Connor Hellebuck is too deep in his net when he's facing this shot. He's not up against the blue paint. He is a little bit deeper than you would like to see Connor Hellebuck on this goal. Oscar Sundqvist is providing the screen right in front of Hellebuck as well. And it's a nice shot by Kyrou, but not a great penalty kill setup from the Winnipeg Jets, I would say. And as a result, the Blues have that 3-2 lead. They've regained that lead within the first 73 seconds of the second period.
Well, and I mean, first of all, it's a perfect screen by Sundqvist. You got to give him credit because I thought that was Hellebuck has no, and it's interesting because one of the things we talked about was how Colorado and Vegas last year were so good at taking away his eyes because they clogged the front of the net. And I was talking to our colleague Connor Hrabchak, and he was saying basically that this year Hellebuck's numbers or maybe it was Remus, because Remus was here tonight, so he was sitting beside us. So I don't know if he was saying it, but that just apparently Hellebuck's numbers through a screen have been very good this year. And so not in this instance, of course.
Tell me when Hellebuck's numbers haven't been good this year.
Fair. Good point. That's a nice counter by you, Drew.
Yeah.
So
I guess actually tonight's game, his numbers weren't great.
Yeah, it was funny because at one point he had an 800 save percentage. I'm like, is that good? But hey, look, the voting for the awards is all done. So now they're focused on other things. But and again, at the end of the day, these guys won't care if they have terrible numbers if they have a shiny trophy and a new banner hanging here at Canada Life Center. But first things first. So yeah, it's not the best setup. You're right. And again, that's one of the areas of concern. We talked about it from throughout the course of the season. I feel like I've been sounding that alarm. Not that I'm like Chicken Little saying the sky is falling because of the PK, but it was an area of concern. And so and it's been better than it was last year, but ultimately you do want it to be a source of, as Dean Chenoweth says, like his power kill to give you your team a boost. And so it's a bit unfortunate because, again, I agree with you. You described that penalty call, Drew. I mean, Jake Neighbors really. I mean, he goes into a scrum. Pionk grabs him. I mean, maybe it was a bit aggressively, but I mean, like, it's playoff hockey. Like, what are we watching here? I mean, like, honestly, it's hard when you've watched hockey your whole life to see these plays and these things get called, and you're like, what am I watching? Like, again, like I said, and I call it both ways because I thought the first Blues penalty was atrocious. I didn't even understand. He barely touched him, and I thought, that's a penalty? Like, what are we doing? So again, it's unfortunate because it has the opportunity to define how a hockey game, the end result. Now, it didn't in the end, of course, but it could have, and it would have been unfortunate if these games would have been decided based on the special teams. Again, based on the penalties that were called that led to the special teams.
Fair enough. Going Connor Hellebuck, goals saved above expected today, minus 1.18.
He saved it all for the regular season.
Well, so if you're the Winnipeg Jets and you can win with Connor Hellebuck having goals saved above expected in the negatives, that would not typically be a Jets recipe for success. That said, Jordan Binnington, minus 1.79 in terms of goals saved above expected. So Connor Hellebuck outdueled Jordan Binnington, if you want to look at it that way. And of course, we've talked about the big saves that Connor Hellebuck made in the remainder of this second period. The glove save off Snuggerud, which, again, the shot was likely going wide, but I thought it displayed a level of confidence and maybe comfort that Hellebuck had. And then, of course, the save of Jordan Kyrou with about 2 minutes to play in the second period. I did make note that about 8 minutes into the second period, so with about 12 minutes to go in the second, there was a shift by Connor, Scheifele, and Iafallo.
Mhm.
That was their best shift of the game up to that point in time. That was, to me, where they started to really begin to feel themselves and begin to execute their style of play. And that happened, halfway through the game. And that was, to me, the tipping point for this game. That's when the Jets really were able to begin to control the flow of the play for the final 30 minutes of tonight's contest. The final 30 minutes, of course, were absolutely dominated by the Winnipeg Jets. Through the expected goals for the Jets in the third period were 97% is what they had. Good? That's pretty good. Yeah, the possession numbers were 82% for the Winnipeg Jets in that in the third period, and it started, I thought, at the halfway mark of that second. That's when the Jets really began to play their game, take control of the game, and St. Louis's opportunities were ones and dones. And the Jets had to, of course, rely on Connor Hellebuck to make those saves, but he made them and he stepped up for his teammates after giving up 3 goals, within the first, 21 and a half minutes of this game, Dave.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way of putting it, Drew. And again, even though they don't get that reward, they're playing the right style. They're playing the right game. So you're watching this, you're thinking, again, you can't necessarily always win the game right away, but you can do the things to put yourself into that position to win. And I thought the Jets did that. And they came at St. Louis in waves, really. And there were a lot of guys, even I'm trying to think, go through the roster right now in my head, and just to think, everybody stood out, right? And they really did for a lot of positive reasons. And so but again, when you needed them to, your big dogs were your big dogs. And the Scheifele line, I thought, was excellent. And they really rolled the Jets to where they needed to be.
9 p.m. Central Time as the Illegal Curve post-game show rolls on this Saturday night. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk. The post-game show brought to you by our friends at Play Now. They're the title sponsor, but of course, we also want to give a shout-out to all of our sponsors because they make Illegal Curve a possibility. All of you do, too, of course, tuning in here for the post-game show. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, turn your notifications on. But a big thank you and a shout-out to our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, and Seagram. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. More about our sponsors as the show goes on here tonight. Third period, the Jets had a golden opportunity. Nick Leddy is in the box for tripping Vlad Nemesnikov. This coming with 16 seconds to go in the second period. Just like the Blues penalty power play carried over from the first to the second, the Jets power play continues over from the second into the third. That's where Kyle Connor had a golden opportunity. Jordan Binnington made his best save of the game, a great seam pass by Cole Perfetti. Frankly, a goal that Connor usually scores, but he hasn't scored a power play goal since December, which is incredible. And it's hard
45 games or something like that.
A wild amount of success at 5-on-5, but at the same time, an equally wild amount of struggles for putting the puck in the net by Kyle Connor. I mean, it's not for a lack of opportunity and for a lack of chances. It's just that he's been so prolific at 5-on-5 that this hasn't necessarily been a storyline. But Jordan Binnington makes a great save, and the Blues kill off the Nick Leddy penalty. And then about a minute later, Dylan Sandberg, he takes a hooking penalty on Jordan Kyrou. The Blues, I thought, executed the flip pass, well in this game. And I know it's a bit of a random event sort of play in the course of a hockey game. You flip the puck in the air, you go chase after it. Sometimes good comes, sometimes bad comes.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it led to the Sandberg hooking penalty against Jordan Kyrou. And before that, it, I think, also led to the I'm trying to find it here on the save. Yeah, the Jordan Kyrou breakaway opportunity also, I think, came on a bit of a flip pass where the Jets had some trouble with that puck. Dylan Sandberg, I didn't think had his strongest game of the season, but did improve as the third period and as the game went on. But he's in the box here for hooking on Kyrou, and the Jets are able to kill the first minute and 20 seconds of this. And then Zach Bolduc, you cannot take this penalty. It's an undisciplined cross-checking penalty on Alex Iafallo in the neutral zone. It nullifies the power play for the Blues, sets up some 4-on-4 hockey, which, of course, didn't lead to anything. The Jets had a power play opportunity shortly thereafter. They don't get anything. But honestly, from that point on, Dave, it was all Winnipeg Jets, for the final 16 minutes of the third period. The Blues didn't register a shot on goal until the game was out of hand, until it was already 5-3. Let me just say that one more time so everybody hears it. The final 16 minutes of tonight's game, the St. Louis Blues registered 0 shots on goal until the game was already a 5-3 lead for the Winnipeg Jets. That is where the dominance of the Winnipeg Jets certainly was noticeable. In the third period, in the final 15 minutes, the Jets elevated their game so significantly, and I can't help but point out that Zach Bolduc cross-checking penalty to me seemed like the beginning of the end for the St. Louis Blues in tonight's contest.
I think that's a fair way of putting it, and I think you're right, Drew. I think the fact is that the Jets took over, and again, even if they were down, it didn't mean anything. They had. I at one point I said to Connor, I said, "Have the Blues touched the puck? Like, when was the last time they've actually had possession? Like, it was crazy. Like, they had the Jets controlled the pace of play, similar to that game against the St. Louis Blues, 12 days ago. And you just thought to yourself, this is Winnipeg Jets hockey. And if they can keep doing this, they're going to keep grinding. Like, look, I like St. Louis. They're a good team, and we're going to see them make adjustments in game 2, and the Jets are going to have to make some adjustments as well. But I mean, that was the maturity, the patience to stick with it pays off, because suddenly now you start to get things rolling again, and that's when they get the reward, obviously, into the third period.
Yeah, exactly right. And the Jets, again, they don't succeed on the abbreviated power play, but they just begin to take over the game, and it's shift after shift after shift where the Jets are have the puck in the St. Louis zone, and it's led by Scheifele and Connor and Al Iafallo. They're the ones who are sort of setting the tone, I think, for the Winnipeg Jets in the third period. But everybody's feeding off of them. I mean, you saw the success of the Winnipeg Jets in the course of tonight's game. We didn't really talk about them because they didn't actually get on the scoreboard, but Perfetti, Nemesnikov, Niederreiter, they had an expected goals percentage of 95%.
Perfetti probably was kicking himself for missing that little tap in. It was a hard pass by Kyle Connor.
That was on the power play. That was
the power play. Yeah, no, I know that was a power play. Yeah,
but I mean, again, 5-on-5, they controlled that. Tanev, Lowry, Appleton, 5-on-5, they controlled 76% of the shot attempts. Expected goals percentage up at 78%. You saw the Jets begin to take over the game and just grind St. Louis down shift after shift after shift until finally they do tie it up. And again, this wasn't a flashy play. It wasn't anything that is beautiful, but it's just a down low battle. You're just winning the play down low. You send the puck in deep. Connor does. Scheifele goes and retrieves it. Scheifele banks it off of the net. He gets the puck towards the blue paint. He manages to elude both Cam Fowler and Robert Thomas with the play. and Alex Iafallo is there to just shovel the puck through Jordan Binnington, standing next to the blue paint. Colton Parayko is late getting over. Robert Thomas has lost his guy as both Thomas and Fowler went after Scheifele, and Alex Iafallo deposits it past Binnington. It's a 3-all game with 10 minutes and 42 seconds to play in the third period, and the joint is jumping in downtown Winnipeg.
Well, and how good does Alex Iafallo feel right now? I mean, he'd been getting it in all game long into it with the Blues guys, and he kind of if you
draws
watch
two penalties. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. Penalties. But you just watch him walk when he's going to do the flyby of the Jets bench, and you kind of see him look into the Blues bench a little bit. And as we discussed on this morning show, and of course I mean this morning show because we had a morning show, we had an afternoon show, and of course
it was 12 hours ago that we just started the first of our 3 shows tonight on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel.
That's true. So you better be smashing that subscribe button and smashing that like button, folks, for us, please. But no, I mean, look, it's just a workman-like goal. That's why he brings that workman-like the attitude. And what does he do? He just goes to the front of the net. He lets Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele dance around, do their thing, because they are so connected. I mean, I know the questions were asked in the post-game media availability, but that's just what you see. These guys know where to be. But Alex Iafallo knows where he needs to be. He needs to be in the front of the net. And so he goes to the front of the net. It's nothing. You're right. Nothing spectacular. It was kind of funny, though, because it was almost like he didn't realize that the goal went in. And we're sitting there.
It just barely. I mean, it
hit the far corner and then came back out quick.
That's right. Just crossed the line and then ricocheted right out.
Yeah, it didn't go deep, but it was just funny because I remember we're sitting and I look and I go, oh, that was in, but he doesn't react right away. But then of course everyone goes bananas. And yeah, I mean, it was just. The building was just waiting for that sort of thing, and I just jokingly said, Alex Iafallo loves Winnipeg, and Winnipeg loves Alex Iafallo.
Worth every penny after the contract extension on that goal to tie it up at 3 goals apiece. And then, the remainder, the back half of the third period, you could see again that it begins to get tight. Nobody wants to make that mistake. Nobody wants to make the error that's going to cost their team. The St. Louis Blues do make that error though when they ice the puck. And so as a result, the Jets are able to get an offensive zone face-off. And this face-off, it's interesting to note who's on the ice for the Winnipeg Jets because Neil Pionk is on the ice as well as Josh Morrissey. So the Jets see the opportunity. They get the face-off. It's not a clean face-off win, but they retrieve the puck well, and then it's a set play. And we've seen this set play from the Winnipeg Jets before. The face-off is to the left of Jordan Binnington. It goes back to Pionk from Alex Iafallo, over to Morrissey. Scheifele is wheeling around and he picks it up off the half wall and he finds Kyle Connor, who has managed to find the soft ice. And Kyle Connor is so good at finding the soft ice. You see Scheifele just wheels around the net. He uses the net almost as a pick, finds Kyle Connor. Connor has just stepped away from Colton Parayko so that Parayko can't get out to try and do anything with this shot. Jordan Binnington can't get over as he's moving from his right to left. And with 1 minute and 36 seconds to go in this game, the Winnipeg Jets take a 4-3 lead, and we have our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Seagram's 83, Manitoba's #1 whiskey. I suspect it's being consumed and enjoyed in a celebratory manner by more than a few people, more than just one of the hundreds that are tuned in tonight to the Illegal Curve post-game show. But however you consume, please be sure to consume responsibly. The Jets regain the lead. They battle back, and they have the lead with 1 minute and 30 seconds to go in this contest, Dave.
Pandemonium. I mean, just pandemonium in this place. And you sensed it, right? The Blues were taking icing calls and they were being a little bit sloppy. And so you said neither team wants to make that mistake, but St. Louis does.
Yeah.
Because they're again, maybe there's nerves, whatever it is. They feel the momentum building with Winnipeg. They haven't had the puck very much.
I just think that's it. They're on their heels for the entire, when you're on your heels, when you don't have the puck for the final 15 and a half minutes of the game. Again, folks, 0 shots on goal for the St. Louis Blues in the final 15 and a half minutes. You begin to say, you're just holding on for dear life. You're doing everything in your power just to get the puck
get-
on your stick and fire it wherever it needs to go.
And just try to get to overtime where, anything can happen, right? But at the same time, the Jets didn't play safe, and you love that because it's game one. And to be honest with you, they need to win game one. They need to set the tone for this series. Again, I know they've won game one in the last 2 series, so that's 3 series in a row that they've won game one. But at the end of the day, this was an important one for them, and so they you see that connectivity. Great play by Colin Parayko. You can see. I mean, obviously he's missed a lot of season. And he's still such a good player. And boy, was he laying the body in this hockey game. He had Mark Scheifele, the 55-on-55 violence a couple times in the hockey game. But really nice play by Kyle Connor to, again, smart play by him to get that time and space. And yeah, I mean, his shot is so good. And it's in the back of the net before Jordan Binnington can even react. And the Jets have a 4-3 lead. And at that point, it's just like, just call it, because you can just feel that there's no chance St. Louis is coming back in that game.
I couldn't help but think about it when Connor scores that goal in what is basically overtime. I mean, you're talking about a minute and a half to go in the game. It's basically overtime. I couldn't help but think about the Four Nations, where he's healthy scratched in the final game. A prolific goal scorer gets the healthy scratch. He scores it against Jordan Binnington. Boy, you don't think the Team USA, maybe in hindsight, would have wanted a world-class goal scorer out there in overtime in the Four Nations Cup. The Jets are glad to have Kyle Connor on their team, and not quite an overtime winner, but certainly a beautiful game-winning goal for the Winnipeg Jets. The icing on the cake comes about 43 seconds later. Adam Lowry collects the puck, or Mason Appleton collects the puck off the half wall in the Jets zone. He goes to shoot at the empty net. He misses, but Adam Lowry.
I think it's deflected. I think it was deflected by the defender, Drew.
Fair enough. Deflected. It seems like it had to have been because it missed so badly and so far wide that the deflection makes the most sense there. But nonetheless, Adam Lowry, who was on his horse the whole time, he's got a step on Pavel Buchnevich, and he goes in there and he is able to beat him to the loose puck. I think it was Buchnevich. No, pardon me, Jake Neighbors. He has the step on Jake Neighbors, and the puck comes off of the end boards right in front of the empty net. And Adam Lowry, from the Jets captain, born in St. Louis, wraps up the goal scoring in tonight's game. 5-3, the Winnipeg Jets, a come-from-behind victory over the St. Louis Blues to take a 1-0 advantage, winning on home ice tonight in downtown Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, glossing over the fight night at the end to kind of send it in, but I mean, look, it's the emotions of the series, and that's not to be unexpected. But Jets don't back down. I mean, the Jets are a big team. They're not going to be intimidated. And so not unexpected for them to be able to have that sort of reaction. And sure enough, they end up, celebrating with 15,000 plus in the building. And then, of course, thousands outside it as well.
It was a party in downtown Winnipeg, no question about it. It's a party here as well on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk with you on this Saturday night. The Jets victorious 5-3 over the St. Louis Blues. When we come back tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show, more on the Jets and the Blues. Adam Lowry had some interesting post-game comments. We'll read those to you. We'll take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and we will look ahead as well to Monday's Game 2 between the Jets and the Blues. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, the Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now. It rolls on this Saturday night.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Saturday night, the Illegal Curve post-game show 20 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome back. Drew Mandel in the home studio, Dave Manouk in downtown Winnipeg, high above the ice surface in the press box at Canada Life Center. The Winnipeg Jets victorious 5-3 over the St. Louis Blues. They take a 1-0 lead in the playoff series. Adam Lowry on Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor's big role in the comeback win. This courtesy Murat Atesh. Quote, I thought tonight was a perfect example of our stars being our stars.
Mhm.
Furthermore, he goes on to say it was great to see them rewarded. I thought they had a heck of a game one. I would agree with everything the Winnipeg Jets captain said. To me, the most interesting part entering into game two is when the way the Jets played over the final 25, 30 minutes of the game. That's, excellent hockey. Can St. Louis elevate their game to match what the Jets did over the final 30 minutes? That, to me, is the question entering game two because of the level of which the Jets controlled the third period and the back half of the second. To me, tells you that St. Louis has to be better, far better, if they want to be able to beat the Winnipeg Jets in this series.
Well, and not only that's 100% true. And the other thing I would add, Drew, is that it also allows guys like Gabriel Velarde and Nikolai Ehlers to, again, I know these guys are pushing. They want to be part of this. They want to be, they want to be involved in every game they can in the playoffs. But it does allow them to continue to, there's a practice scheduled for tomorrow at 12. So we'll maybe see Gabriel Velarde. We know that he was expected to skate on his own today. But the point is
that of practice. I'm sure it'll be an optional more than anything.
Well, regardless, but the fact of the matter is that we may see him skating in an optional with his teammates. We may not. We'll find out tomorrow at 12 noon. But my point is that you're giving those guys a little more time. You're building them some leeway to not having to rush back, to not having to fight, because you mentioned it, or maybe as he mentioned it, if you're down, maybe you're fighting harder to get back into the fighting with the coaching staff. Now you're up. Your team doesn't necessarily need you as bad. They need you. We know that, but they don't need you as badly as if there was a deficit.
Well, and of course, complete coverage of the Winnipeg Jets practice tomorrow will be available on our website, illegalcurve.com. You know that, of course, as your home for hockey in Manitoba. The Winnipeg Jets. So one more thing I want to mention before we begin to wrap, of course, that us at Illegal Curve, we are thrilled to be the media sponsor for the 2025 Rady JCC Sports Dinner. We're going to be there. That's coming up on Tuesday, June the 10th. It's going to be a great Vikings heavy night in downtown Winnipeg. Chris Carter, John Randall. They are going to be the guest speakers at the 51st annual Rady Sports Dinner, Tuesday, June 10th. We'll be there. We're the media sponsor, one of the media sponsors. So, of course, we want you to be there as well. Tickets available, radyjcc.com for more information about that.
Yeah, just Drew, sorry, that some folks are asking about timelines. We don't. I mean, really, in playoffs, Scott Arneal basically told
everybody's
us
day to day.
Everybody will be day to day, with the exception of Nikolai Ehlers, who we know is week to week.
Yeah.
And again, we're not really going to get much more elaboration on that. So, unless a guy is like Rasmus Kupari, who we understand is still in protocol, if he starts skating, then we'll get some insight there. But you don't expect any sort of detail. Right now, they're not great in the best of times, and they're certainly not great at playoff time. So
no, not by a long shot.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was a heck of a fun first game, and it's been a heck of a fun day of broadcasting. Let me tell you, we've done 3 of these shows now. We appreciate everyone spending so much time here on our YouTube channel. Of course, make sure you smash. I'm noticing the numbers are going way up, so we appreciate that. And of course, hey, it's a site. It's a place to be to go get all the Jets content, not just from us, but also from the actual Jets themselves. So when we record all those, Colby was diligently recording the videos while we brought them to you live. So you didn't get a chance to hear them. You don't want to watch the replay. You can watch them on our YouTube channel.
There you go. It's been a hell of a fun day. Quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard. The only other game is the other Central Division playoff matchup. Colorado up 1-0 on Dallas with about 5.5 minutes to go.
Oh yeah.
In the second period. What do you mean?
Well, no, because they were flashing the get loud thing, so I assumed that maybe someone had scored, but in Dallas. But it turns out, I mean, come on, let's be realistic. That game, this one is going to be a Colorado win.
Should be, based on the banged up Stars and their lack of success over the last number of weeks. Colorado.
Doug's asking you another question though here.
When's the BP playoff watch party? Great question, Doug. It is more likely than not to be game number 3 of the Jets and the St. Louis Blues series. So that's going to be, what's that? Game 3 is coming up on Thursday night. So mark off Thursday night in your calendar. The location of game number 3's watch party and live on location post-game show is still a little bit up in the air. It may not be at our regular Boston Pizza. There's some talk that it might be at a different BP location. We will get that nailed down for you, and we will have an answer for you on Monday. For sure, on Monday's post-game show, you'll know where you need to be for game number 3 and the Illegal Curve live on location watch party and post-game show. So stay tuned for information along those lines. And for those of you asking why I'm here, even though I was scheduled to be out for dinner for celebrating my anniversary, the answer is my wife is the most wonderful person around. She said, no problem. We rescheduled our anniversary dinner for Wednesday night. I'm cautiously optimistic. They're not going to change the dates of the Jets games to conflict this week on Wednesday night, but that is why I'm here. So shout out to, of course, my wife, Laura. It's Jazz Hands worthy for all of you wanting to see the Jazz Hands, but that is why I'm here tonight with the Illegal Curve post-game show.
And Drew, of course, I'd be loath to not mention the Manitoba Moose ended their regular season. Sorry, let's maybe do this one more time. I've got a stay of execution because Connor's still here doing some work, so I'm not in quite as big a rush as I was before.
Okay.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Now,
time for on the post-game show, at least this year. More Moose coverage to come, of course.
Yes.
Your end-of-season roundtables and end-of-season interviews.
Well,
but the final Moose game tonight.
It's not going to be okay. So there's a couple of there's a couple of things to discuss. First of all, it's not going to be easy because they're clear nowadays Monday, which is a game day for me. So I don't know how I'm going to be in 3 places at once.
Cloned yourself already.
I have not cloned myself. I haven't figured that technology out.
Well,
but once
Dave,
I do,
I'm just saying, we have an intern now. This might be a good opportunity for the intern to get some first-hand experience.
He'll be doing something. There's no question about that. But I'm going to be putting Connor to work. That's more important. But anyway, so we've got yeah, the Moose are going to be doing their clean out on Monday, so we'll get some end of season stuff with them. And of course, we'll do our end of season chat, which we like to do our Moose roundtable. But the Moose were in action. They were closing out a 72 game season, a disappointing 72 game season, one in which they, of course, failed to qualify for the playoffs and had a number of prospects I thought actually played real well. Blossomed. Maybe none so more lately than Fabian Wagner, the 2022 six-rounder. He sets up the only goal of tonight's game. Dylan Coughlin gets his, I think it was his 12th goal of the season. Yes, it was. Fabian Wagner gets the assist, the primary assist, and Ben King the secondary. So the Moose end up going to Texas and winning 1-0 in the final game of the season. So they end the season on a positive note. I can't tell you one thing that happened in the game because I didn't watch 1 minute of the game. I was joking here with
Dom DiVincentis, his first professional shutout is what the Moose just tweeted. So there you go. I can tell you something.
Yes,
it's the Mandel Moose Minute from now on.
There you go. But yeah, and congratulations, Dom. Great kid. I just did an article about him and his pads and his journey to pro hockey. So that's up, of course, on illegalcurve.com. And real good. I was going to say a real good year of development for some guys individually, like a guy like him, Thomas Milic over in the ECHL with the Norfolk Admirals, back-to-back shutouts in his first 2 playoff games. So he had a real nice start to hit his playoffs, the Kelly playoffs in the ECHL. Yeah. And again, there's guys playing in the OHL. I'm going to have all this on illegalcurve.com later and of course tomorrow morning. But as I said, the Moose, I can't pretend that I watched 1 minute. I did joke up here saying to Connor, do you think I should be tweeting about the Moose game right now? At the same time as I'm doing Jet stuff. But of course, there's only so much of me to go around. So I tried to just focus on the Jets game so I could give you folks a good post-game show, and I'll do some Moose stuff when I finish this, and then I break everything else down later.
When it doesn't have to, it's not so timely anymore at this point. So you'll get to the Moose stuff whenever you can. But this has been a hell of a fun day. I mean, it truly has been a lot. It's probably been a lot of us for all of you who are tuning in. Totally understand if that's the case, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, days like this don't come around all the time to be able to and have the opportunity to do our regular Saturday show, a pregame show, and a postgame show. We thank all of you for being there with us through all of the different broadcasts that we went through today. We remind everybody that on Monday, we're going to start the Illegal Curve pregame show at 4:30 p.m. We're going to be live in downtown Winnipeg at City Place. You can't miss us. We're in the food court. There's a giant Illegal Curve
someone missed us.
poster.
My buddy Shane and shout out Sammy K. They apparently missed us today. So they came. They're like, "Were you guys in the city?" I'm like, "Yes, we were on the second floor." But apparently they missed us.
Well, if you go to the second floor, you won't be able to miss us. We'll be there on Monday at 4:30 for another edition of the Illegal Curve pregame show, and then following game 2, of course, it's going to be the Illegal Curve postgame show. If you haven't already done it, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and turn your notifications on, because that way you'll get alerted each and every time we go live here with the Illegal Curve postgame show, the Illegal Curve pregame show, and of course the Illegal Curve hockey show. A big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the postgame show, the Saturday show, the website a possibility. We've, of course, mentioned our friends at Play Now, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Jordan Jensen, absolutely hilarious comedian, will be at Rumors Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of next week. There's no conflict with the Jets games. We changed the start time of Thursday's show at Rumors to allow for the Jets game to start a little bit later. So if you haven't checked out Jordan Jensen, if you haven't got your tickets yet, get those right away at rumorscomedyclub.com. Holt Dental, they keep our smiles looking so great here as we're on television, or YouTube television as the case may be. Boston Pizza will be there for game 3. More details to come. City Place will be back there on Monday. And then, of course, during game 2, barring a shutout, we're still going to award a Seagram shot of the game. Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's. Support all these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. All of these shows today were made possible thanks to the efforts of Colby Spence, photographer and videographer, Tim Debenham, producer extraordinaire, Ezra Ginsburg, who's on kid duty, and that's why he's not able to join us tonight, but he'll be back on Monday. My colleague, Dave Manouk, who's in the press box at Canada Life Center. For all of them, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Until Monday at 4:30 in the afternoon, we wish you good night and good luck. Jets win 5-3 over the St. Louis Blues. They take a 1-0 series lead. Thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow @Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.